The great wizards who were able to assume any form were engaged by the king of Bhoja, Kaṁsa, to kill Kṛṣṇa, but in the due course of his pastimes, the Lord killed them as easily as a child breaks dolls. I'll read that one more time for emphasis. The great wizards who were able to assume any form were engaged by the king of Bhoja, Kaṁsa, to kill Kṛṣṇa, but in the course of his pastimes, the Lord killed them as easily as a child breaks dolls. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The atheist Kaṁsa wanted to kill Kṛṣṇa just after his birth. He failed to do so, but later on got information that Kṛṣṇa was living in Vrindavan at the house of Nanda Maharaj. He therefore engaged many wizards who could perform wonderful acts and assume any form they liked. All of them appeared before the child Lord in various forms, like Aga, Baka, Putana, Shakata, Trinavarta, Denaka, and Garbhada. Now, by the way, I underlined Garbhada. I couldn't find Garbhada in the Kṛṣṇa book, but I looked it up. It looks like it's at least a Hindi word that means an ass that kicks very voraciously. So I can imagine it's probably one of Dhenukasura's companions, because it's always, in the few places that it's stated about Dhenuka, it says Dhenuka and Garbhada. So anyway, I guess that's one of his demoniac ass friends. If anybody knows about this, let us know at the end of class. So Trinavarta, Dhenuka, and Garbhada, and they tried to kill the Lord at every opportunity. But one after another, all of them were killed by the Lord as if he were only playing with dolls. Children play with toy lions, elephants, boars, and many similar dolls, which are broken by the children in due course by their playing with them. Before the Almighty Lord, any powerful living being is just like a toy lion in the hands of a playing child. No one can excel God in any capacity, and therefore no one can be equal to or greater than him, nor can anyone attain the stage of equality with God by any kind of endeavor. Jnana, yoga, and bhakti are three recognized processes of spiritual realization. The perfection of such processes can lead one to the desired goal of life in spiritual value, but that does not mean that one can attain a perfection equal to the Lord's by such endeavors. The Lord is the Lord at every stage. When he was playing just like a child on the lap of his mother Yashoda Mai, or just like a cowherd boy with his transcendental friends, he continued to remain God, without the slightest diminution of his six opulences. Thus, he is always unrivaled. Om Ganatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, by the way, I am looking at the chat, and Yuga Rasa, be sure to break in if any problems happen. So, Prayuktam Bhoja Rajena Maina Kama Rupinaha Lilaya Vyanudat Tangstan Bala Kridanakan Iva. So, the king of the Bhojas, which was usurped by King Kaṁsa, he took away the kingdom. That demoniac person, he engaged powerful wizards who could assume any form they liked. Kama Rupinaha. But the Lord, Lila Vyanudat Tangstam, as they came again and again, one after the other, he killed them so easily. It was just like Bala Kridanakan. just like a child breaks easily toys, little dolls, no problem. So I've outlined how I'd like to bring out what I think is the purpose or the most essential point of this verse, which is to try and understand how great the Lord is, to meditate upon that. So let's start, first of all, with the history of Kaṁsa and his associates and his followers. Kaṁsa, he was born to King Ugrasena and Queen Padmavati, but actually he was not the biological son. Just a moment. Yes. So what happened was after the marriage of Queen Padmavati to King Ugrasena, she went to go stay in her father's house, whose name was Satraketu, and for a short time. And at that time, there was a demoniac messenger of Kuvera, whose name was Dramila, or Gobila, sometimes he's called. So this Dramila demon, he, just by seeing her on the balcony, he was so attracted to her that he assumed the form of exactly her husband, King Ugrasena, and then approached his what he pretended was his wife and said that he would like to make love to her. So that evening, when they were together in his ecstasy, this Dramila, he lost control and he lost his form. He actually turned back into his demoniac form. But this Queen Padmavati, she didn't protest because she was in such so excited, that she still didn't protest. And because of that, then the son that was born of her from Dramila was Kaṁsa. So King Ugrasena took, I don't know, it doesn't actually, I'm not sure if he knew about this or not, but anyway, he was raised as the son of the king, and he developed demoniac qualities, so much so that later on, being surrounded by his demoniac friends, he was instructed by Chanura, of all people. You remember the wrestler Chanura? Chanura said that, why don't you go ahead and overthrow your father? So he liked this idea. At one point, I was listening to this story. Again, I didn't read from the Mahabharata because Mahabharata is vast. But Radha Swami was saying that at one point Mathura was being attacked by Jarasandha, and Jarasandha was so powerful that I believe, if my memory is correct, it was Kuvalayapida was sent by Kaṁsa to attack Jarasandha, and this was such a powerful elephant that it was killing all the soldiers and all the other elephants, just huge, powerful elephant. And then Jarasandha, he just took Kuvalayapida by his tusk and threw him over the city wall. That's how powerful Jarasandha was. So Chanura suggested to Kaṁsa that why don't you make an alliance with Jarasandha? You can marry his two daughters, whose names were Asti and Prapti. As we remember later on, this Asti and Prapti, they were sent back to Jarasandha when Kaṁsa was killed by Kṛṣṇa. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So Jarasandha accepted the marriage, and then when they were coming for the marriage ceremony, Jarasandha had his entire army with him, he was escorting his two daughters. And on that plea, when they entered the city, they overthrew King Ugrasena Ugrasena protested, but Kaṁsa took over the kingdom anyway, and the citizens didn't even know about it because it happened within the confines of the inner circle of the kingdom. So he overthrew his father, and we know the story about how Devaki was just about to be married. Then he was foretold that her son would kill Kaṁsa, and then Kaṁsa was going to kill her. Vasudeva managed to appease Kaṁsa and said that he would bring all the children to him, so that if the eighth child would be born, then Kaṁsa could do what he liked. And then it was only by the visit of Narada, you see all the bullet points here, this is a sequence of events. In the purport also, it said that Kaṁsa, he was tipped off at a certain point that Kṛṣṇa was actually taken to Gokula. He was exchanged. So that was all done by Narada. Narada revealed everything. And then after that, Kaṁsa did whatever he could in order to kill Kṛṣṇa, who was foretold to be his death. So this is where the wizards come in, the demoniac associates. They were the ones who told Kaṁsa, don't be repentful about killing all of the children of Devaki. You should now kill all the children that have been born in the kingdom. So nobody can stop us. Everyone is afraid of you, even the demigods, etc. So those wizards were all associates of Kaṁsa. And then here's a list of some of the wizards. I think we'll recognize these names. Pralamba, Baka, Chanura, Mustika, Trinavarta, Agasura, Arista, Vidvida, Putana, Keshi, Danakosura, Jarasandha, Banasura, and Baumasura. Familiar names. Just as it's stated in this verse, they came again and again, one after another, all being killed by the Lord. So Kaṁsa made all of these alliances with very powerful kings that were not only powerful with armies, but also by their own personal prowess, not just strength, but also with powerful mystic powers, especially this power of being able to transform their body into anything they liked. So now we're going to go to the next slide. Now, I really am relying on these slides because these concepts are a little difficult to follow, and I hope these will help so that people don't get lost or bored with what I'm talking about. Maybe the visuals will help, and I wanted to focus in on trying to understand how it is that these demoniac personalities, how is it that they became so powerful that they had mystic powers? So where do mystic powers come from? So in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, answering Vidura's questions about mystic powers, Kṛṣṇa explains in detail about the primary and secondary mystic powers, what they are, and how they are attained. So if you look at the graph here, we have 8. Let me use my little pointer here. It might be better. Let's see. When I move, oh no, I know. I need to use the little thing here. Laser pointer. Okay, so mystic powers. So we have 8 primary and 10 secondary. So the 10 secondary, they naturally come by the development of the mode of goodness. As far as I can see, the 10 secondary are not separate and unique mystic powers, but rather they're like subcategories of the 8 primary. Again, at the end of class, if anyone wants to correct me if I'm wrong about this, but as far as I can see, that's how it goes. So the 8 primary mystic powers, they're grouped into what I can see is their control of one's own body. For instance, there is Anima, which is you can become smaller than the smallest thing, like to the atom. You can become so small. There's instances of yogis. There was one yogi that Srila Prabhupada talks about in Calcutta during his time, and he would walk naked, so the Britishers arrested him again and again and put him in jail, but he would always escape because he would simply make himself by Anima City so small that he would just walk out. So family that just gave up. So there's Anima, and then there's Mahima, which means to become the greater than the greatest in size. And there's Lagima, which is to control gravity. You can be heavier than the heaviest thing or lighter than like a cotton swab. So that all has to do with controlling one's own body. And then we have the next set of mystic siddhis. These have to do with fulfilling one's desires. This is a prapti siddhi. Prapti means that you can reach your hand out from anywhere and grab a hold of things, just like they have all kinds of yogis that can produce gold or ashes or whatever they like by reaching their hand out through the ether. So that's prapti siddhi. You can acquire anything that you want. And then prakamya means that you can enjoy anything. So one thing is to acquire all kinds of objects, and the other thing is to enjoy anything and everything in this world. Because sometimes millionaires have all kinds of things, but they can't enjoy them. But so this is not only to acquire, but also to enjoy everything. So control your own body, enjoy objects of this world, and then to control other living entities. So we have Ishita. So like Isha, you can recognize that, to control others, other person's bodies, and then Vashita, that's more subtle. That's to control person's minds and their desires. So their body and their mind you can control. And then the last one is this category right here, which is Kama Vashayita. That's to go beyond nature. These are within the three modes of material nature, and this is to even go beyond the three modes of material nature. So again, as far as I can see, these 8 primary siddhis, beyond that or besides that, there's the subcategories of 10 secondary siddhis. So I'm going to switch over to another screen right here. Come on, let go. I got to let go with the pointer. Laser pointer. There. Now I get it. Whoops. Go back. Ta-da! I got it. Okay, I hope you can see that. This is a chart that I've used many times that Ravinda Swarup Prabhu had put together. This shows the process of creation. So you see from Karanadaksha Vishnu Pradhan, the time element, Mahatattva, and then it branches out into the 3 modes of material nature. So if you look, I don't know if you can see my pointer or not, but over here we have the mode of ignorance, and then tamasa, and there's the Dravya Shakti, which is also called Adi Bhuta. So we're going to switch back. When a living entity becomes so advanced by mystic power, or rather by meditation, he attains these mystic powers. And, he is the seer. So he's the Adibhautic person. So through meditation, he gets a certain Shakti and energy. So that's called Dravya Shakti. So through the Dravya Shakti, he can control weight, the power of gravity, the power of size, small, large. All of that is done by meditation and attaining the Dravya Shakti, being empowered like that. And let's switch back. Then over here we see the mode of passion. It manifests the Adhyatmic person, and that's Kriya Shakti. Kriya Shakti I said that wrong. I'm sorry. I went that completely wrong. Excuse me. Dravya Shakti is Adibhuta. That's the person that is seen, and the seer is the Adhyatmic. I said it backwards. Kriya Shakti is the power that's given to control your body, and then Dravya Shakti is the power to control other bodies. Jnana Shakti, or the Adidaiva, or the Adidaiva is the controller. So there's the seen, the seer, and the controller of the seen and the seer. So that's the Adidaivic, or the Jnana Shakti. So by Jnana Shakti, you get the powers. Let's switch back one more time. There you go. We won't switch back after this. It'll be easier. So you get the power to control others, so that the Ishita and the Vashita powers. And then beyond that, beyond even the three modes of material nature, beyond Dravya Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Bala Shakti, beyond that is the Kama Vashayita Siddhis, which is beyond the modes of nature. Okay, so kind of messed that up, but anyway, I hope you're following along here. Nobody's falling asleep yet. Okay, so let's go to the, whoops, I went too fast. Over here. Now, I wanted to very quickly go through this just to give some sort of appreciation for all the different mystic powers that can be attained. So these are the 8 primary categories of mystic powers, and then the subcategories, I'll just rattle these off because there's a lot of them. There's tolerance of heat, cold, and other dualities. So I myself had some experience of that. As I mentioned before, in my younger days, years ago, I used to practice karate, and I started to actually feel, is there some sound coming through? Is somebody unmuted? Anyway, I used to be able to tolerate pain, heat, cold. It used to be that I could touch things and it would, I would cause damage to it. So even I could start to feel some sort of mystic powers. And what to speak of my senseis, my karate teachers, you could really see how they could just touch something and they could destroy it. And they very much, through their intense endeavor, through austerity, they were able to attain a type of mystic power. So what to speak of yogis through meditation? They're able to get tolerance of all these bodily dualities. Then there's witnessing the pastimes between demigods and celestial girls called the apsaras. So that's like the ultimate Playboy channel. You can just tune right in and see what the denizens of heaven are enjoying. Then there's being free from hunger and thirst, power to know past, present, and future. That you can see in saintly persons. They can know the minds of others. To give orders whose fulfillment is unimpeded and completely executing one's determination. That you can even see amongst military leaders. People that are born practically with mystic powers, with the ability to control others, by their speech. You can hear and see things that are far away, move bodies, your body at the speed of the mind. You can enter into the bodies of others. So we know about Sankaracharya, how he was challenged by one female scholar that you can't speak about the enjoyments of sex. So he entered into the body of a king and found out what it was like, and then he came back in. Anyway, I'm sure most of us know this story. So this is that type of mystic city. You can enter into the body of others and control them. You can die when you want to, just like Bhishma. You can check the influence of the sun, fire, water, poison, etc. You can penetrate into solid surfaces like a wall, fences, mountains, as if you're passing through air. And you can also penetrate solid ground as if it was just like you're through water. So that we hear in the Mahabharata about how, for instance, Arjuna, he would enter into the earth and he would come out of the earth. He could go through walls. He showed all of these powers when there was an exhibition before, all of the residents of the kingdom, showed how they had learned it from Dronacharya. And then after that, Karna, he showed he had the same powers. So Kshatriyas, they would develop these things as well. So these are all secondary powers. You're able to walk on water without dividing it, as if it was solid ground. Travel through the sky like birds who have wings. Touch and feel with your hand the sun or the moon. And you can reach with your hand and even touch up to Brahmaloka. You can become multi-forms, like yogis. I think it's 8, something like that, 7 or 8 forms they can manifest themselves in, and then shrink back into one form. You can become invisible and assume any form one desires. So that's what we're speaking about now in this verse, as it stated, Ma'ina, Kama Rupena. So any desire can be fulfilled, or any form one desires, he can manifest it. So these are all the different types of secondary powers one can attain through meditation. So now here's the next slide about meditation. Now I know this looks like a real mess. It's a collage of all kinds of photographs, seemingly not related at all. What does any of this have to do with meditation? So first of all, we have Sadhaputta Prabhu with his article that he wrote on inspiration. So let's start with that. Wonderful article, scholarly written, but still he did it in such a way that laymen can understand it, pointing out that the phenomena of inspiration, you can see throughout history that when great persons, but anyone can experience inspiration, but the most predominant will be people throughout history that have really excelled. So he points out, just like Mozart, he said that finished symphonies would come into his mind, and he would simply write down as if it was being dictated to him. It wasn't his own endeavor. It would just come to him. So that's why when he would write, there would be no corrections. He's just transcribing what's coming into his mind. Similarly, he gave many examples of scientists and mathematicians that would be endeavoring, meditating upon the answer to very complex theories, and they simply could not come up with the formulas. But then all of a sudden, inspiration would come to them, as if not by their own endeavor, and it would just pop into their mind, and immediately the entire theory, or the solution to the problem would appear in their mind, and they would simply write it down. And he gives instances of great mathematicians that sometimes would these inspirations would come to them, and they would write out entire solutions, and it would be generations that would pass before mathematics would advance to such a degree that they could see where that theory, solution came from. There would be no way that that person should have been able to come up with the solution, because mathematics had not advanced to that degree. Neither the person who was inspired and who wrote down the solution, or anyone else should have been able to figure it out. But it's just like a little piece of the puzzle. So you see here we have a jigsaw puzzle. So you can imagine you have a piece of jigsaw puzzle in the middle, not even connected to any of the others, but you just put it into place, and it just fits. And only when you put all the rest of the pieces of the puzzle together do you see, oh, that's how it fit. So it's the same way with inspiration. It's given as a gift, how to figure these things out. So now we go over to the left. So we have Welcome to Chicago. Chicago, I saw a documentary quite some time ago. It was like years ago. Wonderful documentary, I thought, by the American Experience about the Chicago. It was like a 4 or 5 part series. And I didn't have time to research it, to look at it again, obviously, for this class. But what I remember of it was amazing how from a little backwoods Indian stop, swampy place, it became the great city of Chicago. So the founding industrialists, they found opportunity there because of its strategic point, on the Great Lakes as a port, and then all of the railroads came to it. So the founder of Sears Roebuck, I don't remember, was his name Sears, was it Roebuck, I don't remember, but anyway, he became a very, very wealthy man because of all of the opportunities there. They all moved from New York, and they saw opportunities everywhere. They meditated always upon how to make money, and they became very, very successful. There was many immigrants who came, the Italians, I don't know, anyway, a whole bunch of immigrants, Irish, etc., and they lived in squalor, mostly because they were part of the slaughterhouse district, and there was a river that ran through this horrible ghetto. So what Sears, the founder of Sears Roebuck, would do, in his high hat and fancy suit, he would come and he would poke his cane into this horrible river where all the muck and the pollution was going into it, just stunk. But he was able to poke, people would see him poking his little umbrella, his cane, into the river and picking things out of it. And because of his meditation, he could find things in there that he would think, this can be used for this and that, for manufacturing, and it would go into a Sears catalog. Hundreds and hundreds of items. Similarly, you see another little advertisement here from the beginning of the last century, Armour Ham, Armour Meats. Previously, those that were butchers, it was like a family-run thing. People used to live in the farms, and then they would go to their small towns or villages, and they would go to the butcher shop, and then they would point out a pig or whatever they wanted to eat, and then the butcher would slaughter them and give them the meat. So the founder of Armour, I believe his last name was Armour, he was the one who figured out how to industrialize slaughterhouses. And he was the one who was actually the founder of the modern conception of the conveyor belt and the assembly line. It wasn't Ford. Predating Ford in Chicago was Armour, who made these huge slaughterhouses, and they systematically, slaughtered all these thousands and thousands of animals. So Chicago became the slaughterhouse capital of the world, and this fellow Armour, he would utilize every single part of the pig. I don't, of course, in Bhagavatam, we don't want to be mentioning all these things, but just to give an example, because we're talking about how demons came who had mystic powers. How is it possible that demons are awarded mystic powers? So we have Mr. Armour, who's so demoniac that he revolutionized the slaughterhouse industry to make it an assembly line. He said that nothing was left of the pig except for his squeal. So he would use every single thing, part of the body. He would, even out of the blood, he would make buttons. It was over 200 different items that would come from that. So here we have this big demon in this demoniac city who's meditating upon these things, and he's being empowered by that, how to utilize the material nature for his own ends. So then we have one more here, the Ford Motor Car Company. Ford, he was not the one who invented the assembly line. That was invented in Chicago. He used it for his production of cars. And then later on, we see here a picture of Hitler and the Nazi regime. They utilized that concept that was born in America for the concentration camps to kill the Jews, the Gypsies, and the political dissidents. They use the assembly line concept for factory killing. So now you can kind of see where this collage came from. The whole point is meditation. By meditation, one can become powerful. By fixing the mind without deviation on a single point, one becomes empowered to manipulate the material nature. I hope that wasn't too far away from the subject matter. Excuse me if I was too graphic. Forgive me. But now let's go to the next slide. Now, this is a lot of reading. Maybe you can just try and follow along. Not that you have to read everything, but you can kind of try and read along with me. So the point is that meditation produces mystic powers as its byproducts. So this was the original question of Uddhava in the Uddhava Gita in the 11th canto, and Sri Krishna is answering. First of all, he delineates all the different primary and then secondary mystic powers, and then, and then he discusses, he tells Uddhavas how those mystic powers are attained through meditation. So the first one is anima. So that's the power to become minute, as small as an atom. So Krishna says that if one worships me in my atomic form, that's why I underlined this. So you meditate upon Krishna's atomic form, which is pervading all the subtle elements. By fixing the mind on that alone, then one attains this meditation of becoming as minute as the atoms. Then he says that mahima, the power to become enormous, as big as you want, that is attained by absorbing, the yogi absorbs his mind in a particular form of the Mahatattva, and thus meditates upon me as a supersoul of the total material existence. By further absorbing the mind in the situation of each individual element, such as the sky, air, fire, and so on, one progressively acquires the greatness of each element. So, first of all, you think about Krishna, how small he is in his atomic form, and then you think about Krishna in his gigantic form of the Mahatattva, and his position as a supersoul. What is that supersoul? That's Mahavishnu. So, one meditates upon that alone. As he meditates on the different elements of the Mahatattva, he becomes as great as those elements. I mentioned in a class sometime before, maybe a few months before, if you think about just like a cloud, it's got so much water in it, it's floating in the air. But if that cloud, with all of its water content, all of a sudden just fell all at once on a city, it would absolutely devastate the city, just like an atomic explosion, a nuclear holocaust, because of what's in there, the composition of the mass of water within that cloud. So any element, a mountain, if it crashes on top of you, you're going to be smashed to smithereens. Or if just a tidal wave comes, just like when the thing that hit Sumatra and Thailand and all that, what is it, 40,000 people were killed by a tidal wave. So all of these elements, they have so much power. If one meditates upon its relationship to the Mahatattva, to the Mahavishnu, then by realization of that through meditation, one acquires the qualities of those elements and becomes as great as those elements. So it's like realization of what is the truth. When the truth becomes revealed, one acquires the powers of those particular realizations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're all with that. Those things are within each and every spirit soul. So then the next one is called lagima, or got here a little reminder, memory jogger, density. So it's the power of making oneself heavy or as light as one wants. So Kṛṣṇa says that I exist within everything, and I am therefore the essence of the atomic constituents of material elements. The yogi, he realizes a subtle atomic substance of time. So again, time and space are intimately related. One cannot exist without the other. Time is the passage of sunlight as it passes over atoms. So as we mentioned some time ago, that time can be seen as entropy, or the decay of everything. Everything that's created, maintained, and destroyed, or goes through the creation, maintenance, destruction, goodness, passion, and ignorance, that is all within the confines of time or space, atomic structure. So if one realizes that by meditating upon it, then he gets the power of lagima. He can control gravity. He can control density. So those are all within the confines of the atmic person, the seer, and then the seen, the objects of the senses. That would be these powers. Prapti, the power of acquisition, to acquire objects. So Kṛṣṇa says, by fixing his mind completely in me, the yogi will attain, fixing upon me within the element of false ego generated by the mode of goodness, he attains prapti siddhi. Then prakamya, to enjoy objects, concentrates all mental activities in me as a super soul of that phase of the Mahatattva which manifests the chain of fruitive activities. So we can't attain anything by our own endeavor. Kṛṣṇa gives us everything. So both the objects and the ability to enjoy those objects, those come from another aspect of the Mahatattva, or the super soul, who's in charge of the Mahatattva, who's manipulating. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. So that's the Adi Baltic aspect, Dravya Shakti, and then the last three we have Ishita, which the yogi places concentration on Vishnu, the super soul, and the prime mover, and the Supreme Lord of the external energy, consisting of the three modes, obtains the mystic perfection of controlling other conditioned souls, their material bodies, and their bodily designation. So controlling the bodies of others, that's Ishita, and then Vaishita, more subtle, is to control the minds of others. The yogi places his mind on my form of Narayana, known as the fourth factor, full of all opulences. So, we have the deep dreaming state, Jagrata, and then the awake state, and then we have the fourth state, which is beyond all these stages of consciousness, Turiya stage. So if one meditates upon how Kṛṣṇa is beyond all stages of polluted consciousness within this world, in the fourth stage, full of all opulences, then he attains the ability to control not only people's bodies, but also their minds. So all of these things, Dravya Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Bala Shakti, those are within the confines of the three modes of material nature. Then beyond the confines of the gunas, there is this siddhi, which is called Kama Bhashayita, which is very similar to Brahman realization. One who fixes his pure mind on me in my manifestation as the impersonal Brahman attains the greatest happiness, wherein all his desires are completely fulfilled. So we know there's many descriptions about how you go from the human form up to the heavenly planets. The heavenly planets are 1,000 times any happiness of a king, the greatest happiness in this world. And then you go up to the Mahaloka and the Tapaloka, and you keep on going all the way up to Brahmaloka. It keeps on increasing 1,000 times. When you get to the Brahmaloka, that's the highest happiness possible in the material world. Only with the only or distress that they even experience is feeling of compassion for others. Material feeling of compassion for others. But 1,000 times more enjoyable than the happiness experienced in anything in this material world, even up to Brahmaloka, is that of Brahmananda. So that's what's being spoken of here, as far as I can understand. That type of fulfillment of any desire that we possibly could have, that is his Kama Bhashayita. We're completely satisfied. We don't need anything else. That's this mystic power. So, of course, we know that bhakti is beyond this. These are all impediments to bhakti. If we become absorbed in them, they're given automatically to the pure devotee because he goes beyond the material natures. But if one wants these things for his own enjoyment, then they're stumbling blocks in the path of self-realization. So let's go to the next slide. Now this, keeping in line back with the theme of the verse, all of these mystic powers, anything in this world is given as a gift by the Lord, even if we don't recognize them. Just like if we give something in charity to someone, we feel good about it. But generally, we want to be recognized. If we give something to somebody and they don't recognize it or they don't know about it, generally, we don't get the same kind of happiness. We want other people to recognize our generosity, but not the Supreme Lord. He's absolutely pure. Even if the living entity doesn't recognize the gifts that are given to him, the Lord is not affected. He simply has love for the living entity, and that is never polluted by any kind of selfish desire, not like those in the material world, overcome by goodness, passion, and ignorance. So I can give a couple of examples, just like I'm in California right now visiting my parents. They have increasingly more severe dementia. And I come out of Zintan duty every once in a while. I do all kinds of repairs around the house due to my Sudra abilities. That's what I'm good at. So I found myself that, actually, like for instance, my father used to really appreciate when I would come and do all kinds of stuff. Now, because of his dementia, he doesn't even know what's going on. So it's not the same kind of thing. Like, wait, I don't feel, because of my conditioning, it's like he doesn't even know everything that I did. So the father, he will appreciate the child. So, and if it's not appreciated, then, we have that, there's a disconnect. But Kṛṣṇa is not like that. He's the Supreme Father, and he sees all the activities of the living entity. So anything that we do is greatly magnified by the Lord because of his pure transcendental position. Anyway, I have some other examples, but I think that's enough on that point. Let's move on. So Kṛṣṇa, he is Eko Bahunam Yo Vidati Kaman. He is the one eternal supreme being who supplies all of the necessities for all other living entities, even if he's not acknowledged for it, even for the demons. So here we're learning in this verse, or we're reminiscing about how these great, great demons, they were killed by the Lord. But as it's stated in this verse, Lilaya Vyanudat Tangs Tang, they came again and again, one after the another, and Kṛṣṇa killed them as a matter of course. That was his pastime. Bala kridakan iva, just like a child very easily destroys dolls. So I remember when my brother and I were young, little kids, we would play with dolls too, not baby dolls like girls, but we would play with little soldiers. Especially me, I play all day with soldiers, with tanks and little plastic tanks and stuff. And what we do is we would get like firecrackers and we'd bind them all together and put them under the tanks and the soldiers, so we'd blow them up. We would do this for hours. And even I remember one time in particular, my sister, my older sister, she would be like doing all the housework, vacuuming the floor and cleaning the dishes. And one time she came in and just grabbed me and shook me and said, "For God's sakes, you're not a soldier." Because she was out there slaving, sweating while I was just playing all day. So she became really envious of me. Anyway, so Kṛṣṇa, when he kills the demons, it's just like play, Leela. Like I had my Leela with my toy soldiers and tanks. So similarly, Kṛṣṇa, or like a Lego set, the boys, they put them together and then they break them apart. So similarly, Kṛṣṇa is the source of everything. So by his Yogamaya potency, Purnamasi, she arranges for all of these things. And the demons come, and then Srila Prabhupada, once he was saying that the demons generally would come in the around noontime, and Kṛṣṇa and Balaram would kill them. They would work up an appetite, and then they would go for lunch. So it just all play. You get good appetite. So Kṛṣṇa, he's always the personality of Godhead, full of all six opulences, completely and full. No one is his rival. It's not an endeavor for him to kill these demons. Just like the previous slide was that of Mahavishnu, is controlling the entire cosmos. So, and Mahavishnu is just a portion of a portion of a portion of Sri Kṛṣṇa, of Baladev. So when Kṛṣṇa kills these demons, it's nothing for him. Play. Lilaya Vaihudatang Stam. So, let's see. Oh, so Kṛṣṇa in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Namang karmani limpanti. There's no work that affects me in this world. Everything that I do, I don't have to do. I'm not controlled by it. Everything that he does is out of a feeling of sport or love for the living entities. So he gives everything to us, and we simply have to appreciate his gifts. So mystic powers, the ability to control others, to control the world, all of those things are gifts of the Lord, whether we recognize it or not. But a devotee, he cultivates recognition as such. So let's go to the next slide. 2 more slides and we're done. I don't know. Look what time it is. Oh, it's almost time to quit. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I pulled this slide up once or twice in Bhagavad Gita class. This is a book which Madhukanta Prabhu just sent me a link to. I got to buy it and read it. But anyway, it's a quotation from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Chaitanya Shikshamrita. He breaks down that for God realization, for devotees or for those who are spiritual aspirants, they go through different stages of appreciation for the Lord, or they approach the Lord out of different motivations. So the lowest type of motivation is that of bhaya, of fear. God is up in the heavens and he's got a book and he's writing down all of our sins and condemning those that don't follow the rules and rewarding those that do. So that's out of fear, God-fearing people. This is on the lowest level of motivation for serving God, which most religions, this is what they do. They say, if you want salvation, you come to us. We're the only true religion, and everyone else is going to hell. So this is bhaya, the motivation of fear. And then there's asha. Asha means to satisfy one's desire. So you can not only do we fear God, but actually we understand that, hey, he's the order supplier. He can give me anything I want. All I got to do is follow these rules and regulations. I get a house, I get a car, and I get a wife. and everything that I want. You just follow this, and you become prosperous, and you expand yourself. So that's another type of realization, a little bit higher than just out of fear or frustration like the Buddhists, just out of sheer anger. They reject everything. But Asha's motivation for developing spiritual life is knowing that God is the supplier of everything. He can fulfill all my desires, so therefore I should follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures to fulfill my desires. And then there's number 3, and that's the motivation which is called Kartavya Buddhi. Kartavya means duty, a feeling, a sense of duty, because the Supreme certainly gives me all of my desires. Everything is provided for me and for everyone. So out of a sense of gratitude for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I should serve and try and develop my unmotivated service towards Him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this is the beginning of real bhakti. So this is what we're talking about, especially we could say in this verse, is if we can understand how great the personality of Godhead is. All of these demons are nothing. They're just like play. If we can understand how powerful the Supreme Lord is, then we can get a sense of His greatness and therefore further develop our Kartavya Buddhi, our sense of duty towards Him, following the rules and regulations. This is actually Vaidhi Bhakti. This is where Vaidhi Bhakti begins. And then the last motivation is that out of trying to develop pure love or trying to develop raga, or a sense of attraction to the Lord. Not just a sense of duty, but actually how to again fall in love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the most pure type of motivation. So, just one second. In the purport, here's one last point. That the 8 siddhis and the 11th, I'm sorry, this was in the 11th canto rather. In the 11th canto, Kṛṣṇa tells Uddhava that the siddhis are naturally existing in everyone and they're unexcelled in this world. So if you think about that, those are like our birthright, those mystic powers. Just as much as if you see a child, he's fed, he's clothed, he goes to school, he's got a place to live. Those are all just given. Those are given by his parents. It's expected that the parents will maintain him like that. They're natural. There's no need for the child to endeavor for these things that the parent naturally gives him. Similarly, mystic powers, as one advances in his spiritual realization, these things naturally occur. So we shouldn't become bewildered by them by trying to attain them or by desiring them. So we are almost done here. So a summary of what we've tried to present in this class is that, in regards to this verse, is that there were great demons that Kaṁsa engaged to kill Kṛṣṇa. But Kṛṣṇa killed them just as easily as a child. Playthings for him to tear apart a toy. We've all experienced that when we were little kids. How long would our toys last? At least for me, it'd be good if they could last a few weeks before they're all ripped apart. So Kṛṣṇa is playing. These demons, they come and he just kills them very easily. No endeavor. Mystic powers, they are awarded by meditation on one aspect of the Mahatattva, or the Virat of the Lord. So by meditating on the Lord in some aspect of His creation, those mystic powers are awarded to the living being. So similarly, all the gifts which a living entity experiences, Vididati Kaman, those are all supplied by the Lord alone. And therefore, the beginning of raga, of real attachment, of pure love, is Kartavya Buddhi, understanding the greatness of the Lord and our duty towards Him. So reading the Bhagavatam like this is a fulfillment of that beginning of bhakti, Kartavya Buddhi, till we attain raga. So that was the end of my presentation, my monologue. If you want to unmute everybody. I went over today, sorry. But anyway, does anyone have anything that they would like to add? Could you hear me okay?
Yes. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Good.
For one thing, I just want to say wonderful class. This was incredible, just an incredible presentation. It made things so clear and so detailed. I learned so much, and it was just very enlivening. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being so generous.
I don't have any questions right now. It's taking a while to absorb all the mystic powers, but I don't think that those are so important. Is that everything is coming from Kṛṣṇa, and what we're really seeking is that raga bhakti, to develop that loving relationship with him. So,
Haribol.
Yes, Haribol. I know of even some devotees are striving for some mystic powers, but that's on a lower platform. We should not care about these things. They're insignificant. They're temporary, and they're just not important. Our eternal loving relationship and developing that is the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. So Damayanti Mataji asks, so if we don't have any gifts of mystic powers, does that mean not being advanced, not caring to have them, but seeing them as a measure of advancement? Well, if you want my opinion, probably it means we're not very advanced. But the other thing is that that's kind of like obvious that we're not advanced. But the other thing is also if we were rewarded mystic powers, like if I had Prapti Siddhi, I would probably go out and get a lot of gold. I wouldn't get US dollars, I would get gold. So probably there are two things. One is that we're just plain not advanced, and the other thing is if we got mystic powers, we probably misuse them. That's my guess.
I'd like to add something to that. I think that Kṛṣṇa has bestowed many devotees with mystic powers that have then become used in his service. One thing is like Sankirtan devotees. Their abilities, they could use their influence to control others or something like that. But I just know some Sankirtan devotees that and speakers that just, well, I don't know. I mean, that's also is transcendental ability, but just an incredible abilities that I know when I have tried to go out and distribute books, I just have nothing. I mean, I just have no ability whatsoever, and but some of these devotees are just empowered and for preaching, and then just so many other things that have developed that I don't think the artists, so many artists became empowered or are still empowered. I am not speaking for myself, but actually, I did experience some of that coming through me, and have that, in painting pictures of Kṛṣṇa, I really felt like I never had any formal art training before joining the BBT art department, and then I could feel flowing through me it was all coming from Kṛṣṇa. It was like turning on a faucet. you know, my paintbrush would just, you know, I would just make colors and put paint on the paintbrush and just start painting, and just, you know, amazing pictures would just come out, and I knew it wasn't from me, and it still isn't. So, and with Jadharani, she said that it's on one video. She said that Prabhupada told her that actually she really didn't have any art ability, but because she followed his instructions, and through his mercy and, you know, Krishna's mercy, then she became really empowered to, like, depict the spiritual world, but and other artists too, you know, Pushkar, Driti, Prickett, so many, Muralidhar, so many. So these things can be used in Krishna's service. So that's my contribution. It doesn't have to be just, you know, misused for ourselves.
Can I just tell you one quick little story in regards to Damayanti's point? I heard this story once that there was an Indian man. He was betting at the horse races, and he said that, oh, Krishna, oh, Bhagavan, you let me win the horse race, and I'll give you half of everything that I get. So he put all of his money into this one horse, but then that horse came in second, so he only got half. And then he was praying to Lord Hari. He said, "Oh, why you only did for the second horse? Do you think I was going to cheat you?" So he had to give that half. Anyway, it's a joke. So probably we don't get mystic powers because we'll misuse them or we're not ready for them.
Ramananda, I had a perspective where sometimes, what do you think of this idea that everything that you're doing right now is also being empowered? Everybody is empowered to do whatever they're doing. Nobody has any ability on their own to do anything. So everything that everyone is doing is some degree of empowerment, and you can see Krishna doing everything. Do you think what do you think of that idea?
Good point. We were just talking yesterday about, and Bhagavad Gita class? No, we were talking about Prabhupada last night. And we were just talking about ants. Because we read this one part where ants were crawling up to get Mahaprasadam. Anyway, how ants, they can smell things which would for us would be miles away. They're so tiny, but they can come into a room and just smell food immediately. And then they can carry 100 times their load, go hundreds of miles for our size body. So even an ant has all kinds of mystic powers. You know, a dog, they can hear things that we can't possibly hear. So each and every one of us has mystic powers or abilities. So all of those, that's a good point. We're all being empowered by the Lord in our own way. So I agree. Good point.
Because I sometimes notice how when people just do anything, that it's everything's amazing. The fact that whatever we do, and when you do something and someone else wins or something like that, or has the ability to disturb you, for instance, sometimes I notice, well, they're just empowered, like family members, for instance. They're just empowered to be able to say one little thing and get you so disturbed. No one else could do that. So it seems like sometimes different situations. So I would, first it came as a joke by thinking, this person must be empowered to have such an ability to control. But then I was noticing everybody has, to some degree, is empowered by either Maya, naturally. That's the one that we're most empowered by. And because everything is under Krishna's control. So in one sense, everything is being empowered, and then according to your karma, you'll be successful, or someone else won't be successful because of the way that the Lord's empowering or not empowering them. But of course, we use these great examples like you gave here, these ones that were the first ones. But I always like to take it down to a couple notches to just see how everything is amazing when you look at it. We take so many things for granted. It's coming.
Can I ask, was all the detail about the mystic powers a little too much? Maybe I should cut down a little bit. Anyway, I didn't want to lose anybody there. I just found it so fascinating. I thought you might find it interesting.
I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah,
and along those same lines, as Don Mohan was mentioning, so we may have mystic powers that we don't even recognize. Like if a child has been trying to get a door open, they have a hard time when they're young manipulating a doorknob, and then an adult comes along and just opens the door. It's, you know, it appears to be magic or mystical, but it's just, you know, we all have a certain amount of mystic powers and we don't even realize it.
Yeah, I can't forget, was it Spinoza or somebody? Anyway, said that one person's magic is another person's science. So it just, we don't understand these things. So it appears like it's magic.
One point, can you put up on the screen that chart with the mystic powers?
Hold on, let me see. Let me go back. Okay, here we go. Okay, tell me when to stop. This one?
On the mystic
that?
powers, the gold,
okay.
The gold bars. There it is. Yeah. Okay, so no, the gold bars.
Gold bars.
You just went by.
This one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one. So anyway, it occurred to me that some of these, okay, so it's mostly the impersonal aspects, but one of them is the form of Narayan. One of this, so it's the impersonal aspects is what's being meditated on. And also meditation, just for a sidebar, is Prabhupada, in some of his purports, he doesn't apply that word to anything but the form of God. So, you know, one can have one-pointed concentration, but Prabhupada makes the point that meditation is exclusively for meditating on the Lord. Or it's, you know, anyway, it's used liberally by, you know, the other systems, yogic systems, for succeeding in the system. Anyway, just something that Prabhupada said along the way.
Ramananda, I got a question.
Uh-oh. Okay.
I mean, really, I have a question. I'm not just like trying to make some conversation, but somebody asked, what's the difference between like the explanation of lagima and anima? You can become small, you can become light. Then the secondary powers are that you could enter into earth. I mean, you have. It seems like if you're entering into earth, you're getting pretty small. You're entering. I mean, that what someone says. What's the difference? In fact, I thought the explanation in Nectar of Devotion was that you can enter into earth as anima.
I don't know if you were here from the beginning, but this was my speculation. I was hoping if somebody had another idea. But there's the 8 primary and then the 10 secondary. So as far as I can see, the 10 secondaries are not a different category, but rather they're a subcategory of the primary. So entering into earth would be, you know, like anima.
You have to have anima to even do that.
Right.
Oh, so the 10 secondary seem like an example of what you can do. Anyway,
yeah, it's like in offshoots. Maybe you can't do everything that anima comes with anima, but some things you can do with anima is enter into the earth. So that's how I saw it, because it looks like you can pick out any one of those secondary, and they're part of the primary.
I was going to also mention, like, as far as tolerating, that's an interesting thing, because they're obviously not as just to tolerate the heat or the cold. So if you've seen the video of this South Indian yogi, Rambo, I forget what, it sounds like Rambo, but it's spelled Rambog, A-U-G something, or maybe just like a French sound. He's called the Fire Yogi, and it's pretty incontrovertible videos of the guy where he's lying on this 1,000-degree flames, and the flames are licking up around him. It's pretty amazing. And have guys that are blogging and saying, obviously he's got some fire retardant on, but they even took his cloth and tested it in England. And even his chadar hardly becomes burned, and his hair, I mean, you put any hair near a flame, it's going to burn. But this guy lies in the flame for like 15, 20 minutes. And he doesn't just do it like any time, hey, buddy, can you lie in flame? But he takes him a couple days where he builds a fire, and he throws all these sacrificial fruits and different items in the fire, and gradually the fire gets built up, and he's sweating and lying. Gradually he's getting into the fire, and he's very close to the fire. He's reaching into the fire. It's like an hour and a half's worth of video is worth watching if you want to see someone actually exhibiting that mystic power that he can enter in. He's not entering into the fire per se and going onto the sun planet, but at least he says constantly, they ask him, how can you do it? When he chants certain mantras, he does pranayama, he learned it from his guru, and he has all these different herbs he puts in the fire, and he holds herbs while he's doing it, these different types of plant substances. So it's not like, plus he worships Ganesh, he worships a cow, he only drinks a cup of milk. I don't know if he's still alive. This was like 10 years ago. And but obviously doing it. I mean, you can just see people are standing back 10 feet away. They can't get near the fire, and he lies down on top of the fire. And he's always emphasizing, I'm friends with the fire. I'm friends with the fire. This fire is not my enemy. I am friendly with the fire. The fire and I are one. And he's lying in a flame, and it's like blazing coals. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I don't think too many people can do this at home. If you just Google a fire yogi, you'll see a guy do that. It's total mystic power. There's not even any question, not like running on coals or something. He's lying in the fire for 20 minutes at a clip, and he's not even his hair catches fire. It's pretty amazing.
Wow. The 10 secondary, the 10 secondary effects of mystic cities. That would have been interesting to see. I would have, you asked a question previous, so I'm going to give my 2 cents. I would have condensed some of this other stuff leading up to it, but the 10 secondary had direct relationship with some of the powers that the demons have. Right?
Yeah, well, Ramananda explained all that.
Yeah, but he had the chart for the main cities, and
they don't really have the main city. Those demons don't really. I mean, Hitler,
no. Yeah, it seems like there would be, if somebody's really meditating on the Lord, you would think there would be some. They wouldn't be like a
demon,
right?
Yeah, I think you're right that the demons, they get secondary cities. That's what it looks like, because that was one of them, a power to, to take any form you want.
Right. So and I think some of this is related more to austerities, like Hiranyakashipu, Ravan, they were famous for austerities. There's a back door to this stuff, with the sole intent of becoming powerful.
back door.
The reason why I spent so much time on the primary instead of the secondary was because there's a lot of information about it in the Bhagavatam, and then also I wanted to point out in relationship to the verse how by meditating on different parts of the Virat you can get these powers.
Right, and that okay, right, okay, that makes more sense that you're dealing with something like that rather than the form of the Lord. Because even the yogis, that go after these cities, they're some of them they're just after the name and fame or the power itself. They become God. Prabhupada rails about these. They have a little city, that these yogis, they develop a little city, and then they have, a little gathering in somebody's house, and they display a little something that they've collected along the way, and, everybody kind of like, oh, he must be God, or something. But the purport is obvious that Kṛṣṇa, no matter what form he takes, he is the master, in taking different forms, but he always has his full power, even as a child. Nobody's going to match him.
Okay, Prabhus, thank you very much for kindly listening.
Okay.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai. Thank you.
Hi. Haribol, Ramananda. Haribol.
Haribol.